All right, so I apologize if we're discombobulated. First meeting. So I wanted to definitely get together with everybody and kind of go over where we've been in the past and what we're looking to do. And I want to get everybody's feedback, everybody's opinions. The biggest thing that I want to bring to the rec department is I want to get our kids from Sanford back. I want to get our rec department to actually grow so that we offer more. Maybe look at the spacing that we have at the rec fields to see what we can do there to enhance it. And also include those kiddos that don't currently care for sports, you know, with drama or Lego club or you name it, I want to offer it. But I also want to include our seniors as well, because we've got some that are, I wasn't talking about you, but since you raised your hand, ouch. Sorry.
We digress.
I've had one that suggested that they would really like to be able to play cards or bingo or something. So I'd love to be able to set something up.
That's a really good point. Like, what is the entire scope of the rec department? Because in my mind, it was like the, you know, spring sports, fall sports, winter sports, like that's the rec department, but I don't know.
I guess it could be expanded to include whatever the kids, not whatever, but most whatever the kids would like to do to keep them engaged and
in the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and for adults as well, I think it's kind of has a larger scope than just the kiddos.
Yeah,
I mean, that's obviously our primary focus, but I think there's room for expansion. We can do things in here, presumably, with the town's approval, so we could do bingo, and we can do painting, and we can do, you know, whatever we need to do when the weather isn't cooperating or over.
I think bingo would have a huge draw.
Yeah.
And that's a good money-making.
Are we competing with the church? Is that something that they're doing next door, or is?
From everything I've ever heard, and maybe you guys know this too, Carol or Lori, does the church offer any bingo?
I don't know, but can people say who they are while they're talking? Because we don't see any pictures and we don't know.
Sure.
Well, first, yeah, I agree. So let's introduce ourselves. The voice speaking, hi, I'm going to. So this is Hope speaking, and this is our first meeting with the rec committee. So good morning.
And I'm John, and same, Hope's husband.
You know me, Crazy Sam.
I'm TJ Doms.
Yep.
Jennifer Doms.
The only reason I have you guys looking at the ceiling is because you're on the cell phone and I couldn't get my laptop to connect.
We can say our names a few times before we start talking until you get like the...
Yeah, just say, you know.
It's a little spotty also, so I'm hearing kind of a couple of every other word sometimes.
You put your speaker and, yeah.
This is Jennifer. I was here yesterday for the breakfast. They had like a pancake breakfast yesterday, and it was predominantly like an older age group, and it seemed like they really do enjoy just the social aspects of having things like pancake breakfast. That happened, I think, to be a fundraiser, but I think bingo nights and any other activities like bean suppers, like things that they actually really enjoy doing. My parents being...
Her parents are like lifelong Sanford residents up until the past 2 years, and they commented that they wish more people were here at the Acton breakfast because it looked really well put together.
It was, yeah.
And I can tell they want to participate with the community more, so we definitely want to facilitate and get the senior-ish people together more too, because they seem to crave it. We just have to give them an excuse to do it.
Well, that kind of leads up to one of the ideas that I was kind of brewing in my head. One of the things, so baseball only goes through the end of June. Once baseball's over, then we have to start thinking about, now when does cheer start? When is soccer? And kind of going into that. And I'm hoping that we can do some clinics, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. But one of the thoughts that I had is every other weekend, doing a full-out field day barbecue over at the field. So that way we have the snack shack open, we can offer barbecue, maybe we can do some smoked meats, And then we just have activities for kids of all ages
Yep,
there.
that's a wonderful idea.
So, you know, it'd be free activities, but obviously cash for any food that they would like. And maybe we can set up some, like if anybody has some folding tables, we can set out some folding tables and that so that people have places to eat.
Well, a couple of tables were in the budget for next year.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, folding tables were in the budget for next year, not chairs though.
No.
Are you going to store those at the field or no?
Not right now. So this is John. I think if we go into the utility shed and do a full-scale clean out in there, there may be room out there. The snack shack, once everything's put away, like after yesterday, is pretty crowded.
Yeah, and we're housing things that don't belong in there.
The utility shed, anything you put out there, plan on having,
Mice.
mouse drop on
Yep.
them. It's a very, very huge problem over there. So
Yep, I saw it.
keep that in mind.
Okay.
We can set up nice extermination meetings, I mean, that's something we want to do. A
Absolutely.
few traps and
What,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we need to get rid of the mice and like we actively want to use that shed, then let's.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it and see where they're getting in. We've used the spray foam in other houses with, you know, some degree of success. So I think let's eradicate the mice so we can use, you know, and the tables and things can be,
Yeah.
and should be wiped down anyways
Yeah,
and
tables.
sanitized, so.
Yeah.
But the, you know, the baseballs and the bags and,
The bags,
I
yeah.
mean, that's just a field day for the mice.
It'd be totes they'd have to go into and,
Is it within the, okay, so an overarching question, do we have an active budget right now that we can draw from?
we have an active budget, so the fiscal year ends June 30th.
Okay,
So it starts July 1st.
okay.
So what we have left in the budget now is what we can, you know, kind of configure for what we need for the remainder, and maybe even some things that would lead us into next year.
I don't like outsourcing everything, but if we want like a professional exterminator to go in, not only evaluate the extent of the problem with the mice, but to seal off and be like, this won't be a problem going forward, it might be worth dipping into the budget for that.
And
I agree.
I had thought about maybe posting out to see if we had any volunteers of people that are licensed in this, that would be interested in trying to volunteer some time and some skills. They do have to show that they have the liability insurance and all of that, so it is some paperwork that they would have to go forth with if they were willing to do it.
Sam?
Yep,
I have a thought on that. This is Crystal. So I've had, Orkin come actually here because my basement had mice. So I actually, all they can do for mice is put traps. That's all they do.
they can put traps and seal.
Huh?
They can put traps and seal.
Yeah, that's all they do. So you can buy that and do it yourself. I've watched him and he's like, all he does is seal and traps. And I'm like, okay, that's spent all that money for that. So you can buy the traps and just do it ourselves to save money. I don't really, in my opinion, I don't think we should hire somebody professionally if we can just do it ourselves and save money, since like that's all they do anyway.
That's fine.
And they usually make you sign up a contract, so you have to like keep using them every couple months. And so I think maybe we should look into just buying it ourselves and trying it ourselves first, maybe. It's just my thought.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and if it's not working, we can reach out to someone else. I mean, that's short,
Yeah.
you know, budget. I don't know what the traps cost. I assume we're just looking at the little snappers.
Oh yeah, they're just little snappers, grab a jug of peanut butter and,
I think our biggest issue
Or
up
the
now.
glue traps, that's all they use. Orkin uses
No,
glue traps.
no glue traps.
Oh my god, that's gross.
they're inhumane, no glue traps.
The buckets.
Oh, they were
are amazing.
awesome.
We just
Yes.
bought those for our kids and they work just unbelievably. So,
You can make your own too.
I think we need to get in there first.
And take everything.
We need to do
Everything
a,
out, do a good clean.
yeah, we need a clean day so that we can go in, we can organize it, we can get some shelves and put some stuff on shelves, and then we can worry about placing
they
traps.
work wonderful. They're only about $30.
That's great.
So we could do a,
Yeah, we can get high school kids too to volunteer and get some volunteer hours too if we want to go clean up, have like a cleanup day and have like volunteers and stuff,
Yep, and we can do like a little cookout afterwards. I don't think we should always be charging for things, but I think if we can get a crew of volunteers that's kind of outside just the 8 or 10 of us, that would make a short day of it, and then the kids can be there, and we talked about field games, they're all corralled inside the fence, so, you know, we'll just start collecting things and make it a fun day.
I want to
The
take,
shed was cleaned out just last year, prior to the ice rink season, so I haven't been in it since the ice rink, but before that, the only thing that was in it was, excuse me, the ice rink supplies, and we used to leave the grill in there, but that proved to be not a good idea, and just the rakes for the field and the spreaders and whatnot, so there wasn't much in the shed.
I know there's a bunch like empty spray cans.
The whole thing, we sprayed it down, at one point, completely sprayed down from top to bottom with, like a bleach mold also, so, that was only done last year, so, just shouldn't be that much unless it was a big mess during the ice skating rink.
Lori, is it watertight? Do we have a water issue in there?
There's not a water issue. That's where everything used to be stored. And when I first got on the rec board, we had totes in there with all the uniforms, and actually pulling things out when we were having mice jump out on top of us. Crazy.
Yeah.
The grill even, was put away nice and clean, and they decided to make home in the grill. It's the mice issue. It's not a water issue. Nothing got wet, but they even chewed right through the totes and everything else over the winter. So I think the biggest thing is probably winter hibernation time.
Yeah.
Just the last time I went there were some scurrying. So.
Right, but where you talked about the bleach application, I was just.
Bleach, but that was all done just not too long ago. So we just cleaned the whole thing out and.
sounds good.
Oh, she's frozen.
I think the frame.
Our storage, but our uniforms, everything were there, and a ton of stuff got destroyed because of being in that back shed. That's all.
Yeah, we can get some better bins that would seal a little more securely. So that would probably save the fabric, but we know that they will chew through plastic too. But if we get something sturdy, then I think we can go back to using that for the uniforms and the shirts. We'll see, once we get everything out and we can see where the holes are, and just seal it up.
Sam?
What?
I think if we get, I've tried, I've heard dryer sheets too. If you put dryer sheets in the stuff when you store it, the most of them go near it. And
They don't, so dryer sheets and Irish Spring soap does not work that well. Ask my in-laws camper. They had that, they had mothballs. That thing was packed full of all of it, and we still had so many mice problems in there.
And they also talk about peppermint, so we could just go and get some mint, which will just take off in a not even so sunny spot, and that might, all of these little things we can try.
Okay. So that kind of goes over our storage. Go ahead.
I wanted to take a step back for the field day or whatever else we plan, because I'm just not aware of your guys' reach. If you do an outreach, like, who does that hit? Like, what's your guys'?
So usually when I go in and I post to everything, I'm gonna do Newfield, Shapley, Acton, Sanford, Milton, Wakefield.
How does that message get out? Is it an email distro? Is it Facebook?
Nope, I use Facebook.
Okay.
So with Facebook, I kind of hit all, and I go to the active town pages and I post it in there.
Okay.
And then I will post it.
Been to the Acton town page.
Is it possible to also provide an announcement to the principal of the school?
Oh, yeah, we also do that too.
Blast all of the parents.
Yeah, we also do that. I forgot about that part. So, Amanda, Ms. Cormier, usually does a full blackboard for us as well. The school has been awesome with the fact that if we have rain days or something and we need, we want to practice with our kids and it's something that we can practice indoors, they allow us to go and use the gym. I just have to give a heads up, make sure that nobody else is in there. And also our basketball in the fall is usually in there as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, Facebook is the primary message delivery system here. I mean, everybody in this area uses it to keep in contact and see what's going on in town.
Even the older crowd, like, is all pretty dialed into Facebook?
The parents are all, that's how they learned that picture day wasn't yesterday.
Right, but I think he's asking about, like, the older
The older
population,
generation.
might be
Older
coming to play
seniors.
bingo or for pancake
So we
breakfast and
would-
things.
That I'm not sure.
I mean, some I know.
We can put stuff on the bulletin board here. We can put stuff on the bulletin board over at Mary's at Local 130 and at other locations, as long as we just go over and ask. Most of them will say yes, that we can just stick an announcement that we have. The other place that I've been, go ahead. Go ahead, Lori.
Typically, when there was, anytime we did pictures or anything like that, the coaches would notify their teams. So they would call their teams and tell them when the picture date was, if there's any changes or anything like that, they would notify their teams along with putting it on Facebook. Same with rain dates or any other type of cancellations. So we've always done group chats with the teams, text chats. So when you give the coaches the binders in the beginning, you give them the binders, they have all the parents' names, they do one group chat at the beginning, tell them, introduce themselves and tell them their names, when their practices are gonna be and whatnot, and then any updated information from that point on has always gone that way. The text has always, other than a few people that may not have a text and just have a home phone, has seemed to be much more not accurate, I don't know what word I'm using, but easier for the parents to get the information better than even emails. So in the past, they used to use emails and, like people like me that don't go on their email very often, but everyone has their phone in their hands nowadays. So that's always worked very well for us, along with, Samantha putting it up on Facebook, the coaches putting it on, their group text, so parents 100% know what's going on.
I think we have the kids pretty much covered. We're not hearing many complaints. We've been communicating with, just to recap, Facebook and texting and email, and everyone has their preference and we're accommodating them. I think for seniors, we can probably, get people to sign up and give us the best way of contacting them. And then once we get into a schedule, they'll know, the second Tuesday of the month, we're gonna be doing bingo. The second Thursday of the month, we're gonna do, a dinner or a potluck something, or just, come and chat, and we're gonna have, maybe someone come and talk about a little bit of, history of, this or that, and we can get the seniors more engaged that way. And we can leave it up to them, the best way of communication. And it might just be that they get, we get a schedule going and they just show up, and, we try to do what we can to mitigate the damages if there's weather or an issue that we're not able to do it on that particular day.
Yes, definitely, we'll see if we can create an email list that we can get. Variety of emails.
I had a thought on that, if that's okay.
Yes.
I know, right? I'm like, I have a thought on that. Shocking. So I saw on Facebook that the Sanford Rec Center had senior line dancing for 50 whatever plus or whatever for $5. And Terry, we all know Terry, so she is going and she's bringing all her friends. So the Owls is in Sanford, I know that they do that. And then they post on Facebook, and you'd be surprised how many seniors are on Facebook. So my grandmother, who's like 94, she's on Facebook. So I think it's like a good way to get people as well. And the seniors, there are a lot of people, and that's how they find out the information nowadays. So yeah, that's it. I think that would be a good idea too, posting it and just sharing it, because people see it, and Terry invited like 10 of her friends to go. So just by seeing it on the Facebook, they got at least 10 people, so definitely they're on there too, so.
Perfect, and
that was my thought.
I would definitely like, speaking of trying to do other things, I would like to be able to reach out to some other local businesses, like Dan and Jane Archambault, with Pine Ridge Campground, maybe even Apple Valley Campground. I've been working back and forth a little bit with Paul and Cole, over at Barn Lights, about trying to do another, do some events over there and that we can look into doing for both kids and adults, because they wanna bring more stuff out for them as well.
Great. So, okay, finish.
We're also looking at doing a variety, trying to kind of scoot along a little bit. We're also trying to look at doing some fundraising.
So can I just, real quick to that other, when I was talking about once we have teams formed, so parents know when there's different things like, pictures and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Not for upcoming things. But Shapley does have a website now. I know you have spoke to,
Yep,
Santa over there.
Yep.
I don't know, I've never been on it, but, maybe that's something that we could look into, is an actual Acton Rec website. I think at one point, way back, there might have been one.
That's a really good idea.
But that may be something that would be a really good thing if, you're talking about expanding a whole lot more and doing a lot of other things.
Yours truly over here can take the lead on an Acton Rec website if that's something we want.
Can
That
you
would be
design that?
fantastic.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That's kind of his world, so.
There's automatic web design layouts
Who's that
that.
talking?
This is
That's-
TJ, Lori.
TJ,
Oh, okay, it sounded like you, sorry.
that would be awesome if you could, because I would love to be able to get approval from the town. I don't know how this would work yet, but I would love to be able to take payments online.
Yeah.
Versus making parents have to come in.
Have you heard of Wix? Like, there's website design layouts that I would initially set it up, but it's so easy to administrate that people that barely use a computer can do it. Like, that's how
That would be-
far along web design has come. You don't have to know coding, HTML, anything goofy like that. So-
And parents would love to have online payments.
Yes.
We've tried to do that in the past, and it wasn't possible at the time, but hopefully now, with the rec director, that we can get online payments, because it's very difficult, even with the hours that we have, for parents to be able to get up to the town hall. It was a lot easier for parents to turn things in when they used to be able to turn them into the school for registrations and whatnot.
And it would be heaven sent to be able to do it online.
That's something that parents really, really would like to see.
I was looking at, they have on some of, because I was browsing various things for making a website and doing payments, and it has a variety of drop downs, and one of the drop down options it gives you is we're always looking for donations as well to enhance our rec department. And then you have a drop down of no, don't want to donate $50, or custom donation. So if we could add something like that onto it as well, would be awesome.
Absolutely. As soon as you get the okay to do it, we'll have maybe a quick brainstorm of everything you'd want as like a dream package of a
Announcements,
website.
sign-ups,
And then I could
donations, payments.
knock it out in a weekend.
Perfect, because I'm gonna be talking with them tomorrow.
We have some good pictures already that you could
Yeah.
populate
Yep.
with that.
Can I interject for a second, or no?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm one of those parents, if, website, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, I love that. So, I had a question though, we just want to make sure that we don't have to pay like a monthly maintenance fee to have a website, because I know some websites you have to pay, so I just don't want to like,
There's
make sure we don't
some
like,
services,
that's
it's the
not
initial
eating away
setup.
too at our budget and not, you know what I'm saying?
Our platform is $250 a year, so that's really not a budget breaker. Maybe we use Redfin, and they are stable. We're right in the middle of doing our firm website, switching over from Drupal to, I guess, WordPress. But, our host is stable, and it's, I mean, that's cheap, $250. I do think if we're gonna do payments online, that there will be fees for that, not from the town, but they'll be assessed by the bank.
For a payment process.
Yeah, so they'll take, 0.005% or something, and a little bit more if it's a credit card payment. So we just need to be aware that, we'll lose a few cents on the dollar.
And that kind of leads into my next thought. we have been sitting at the same fee for all sports for years. I'm not talking about doing like a massive jump, but I'm kind of considering maybe doing like a $10 jump or something, because we're currently $20 for every sport.
Yeah.
Unless we do a different activity, which it depends on, which I'm gonna talk to you about in a second. It's kind of one of those, if we bump to $30 this year and then, you know, reassess next year, because that'll give us the funds to be able to offer more. Where right now, it pretty much is a wash, it kind of covers what we need.
Yeah,
I would suggest not doing that, because town of Acton is at a 50-something% poverty rate.
50%.
And some of these sports, the reason why people stay in Acton is because of the fees for the sports. So it's not a big deal if it's one person, but when there's 2 or 3 children, some parents just cannot afford those fees.
Well,
in the past, we have waived, but that came from the selectmen, whether they would waive a fee for a certain person if we brought it to their attention that that person could not afford it.
Well, what about, there's
Helping neighbors account, I mean,
yeah, there's ways to go about that too, where if we put out that it's $30 a kid now for sports with a maximum cap, I mean, you're still looking at, Sanford is 95 plus for most of their sports. So if we have it at $30, and then we also have a fund where we can have sponsorships, that maybe somebody wants to sponsor a couple kids being able to go that can't afford to. You know, say that somebody sponsors and they cover 4 kids, and we only use one of those.
The town doesn't seem to have a problem with sponsoring the kids playing sports. They really don't. And I have had a lot of people say that they don't even feel that we should even charge a fee, because we're getting the money from the town. I'm definitely against that.
well, we could probably compromise here,
I think
and
we should just, my opinion is we keep it where it's at this point and then revisit it in the future.
I think-
After you guys go through a first time doing a budget and everything else. I mean, I've learned a lot over the past 5+ years. And, when I got on the board, we did not know that, we nickeled and dimed everything, because we did not feel that the town would support our budget. And what I have found is just the opposite, is that the townspeople are 100% for the kids and giving the money to the kids for their budget. So I feel that's a mistake.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does the money that the kids pay for sports, does that go to the general fund, or does that go to the rec department that we're able to use the right of way?
It all goes to the rec. From what I've gathered, everything that we intake goes direct to the rec, and it stays in the rec. Because I had that conversation with Jen and Michelle.
Okay, because that wasn't the way it worked with us, I don't believe, right, Lori?
No, not this year. Last year it did, this year it did not. They did not write the warrant for that, but I am told that it is an article this year. That was one of the articles that we wrote, Carol, was to have any fundraising money that we raised and whatnot go to the rec department, and if it's not used within that year, it would go into capital improvement. And
their fees as well?
Yes, so if you see on the budget is money that we appropriate and the money that we raise.
Right.
We have X amount of dollars that's part of our budget. So if our budget is $25,000 for the year, we have, say, it's not the amount, but the flat amount, say $2,000 for all 4 sports. Say it's $500 per sport, even though it's a little bit more than that. $2,000. That's part of our budget, that we have to raise that $2,000. Well, don't have to, but if we don't raise that $2,000, we don't get to spend that $2,000. So that is taken off of our top line of our budget, and then the rest of the money is appropriated through the town. Like I said, we put a warrant, an article in to have that we could, I think I have the exact article here. I don't know if they reworded it or not, but the town, any money raised fundraising concessions, sponsors, donations, and other can be used during the 2022-23 year, separate from the budget or put back into the recreational capital improvement funds. That is supposed to be an article that is going to the town, so long as it's approved by the townspeople on July 1st or whatever the date is. So this year it is not, any money that we have is not going back to capital improvement, and any money that we have at this point, it goes back to the town fund, and any money that is above and beyond up till July 1st that we have, unless it's sponsorship, is going back to the town fund, because we cannot use funds above and beyond what is on that, the budget.
Now that's exactly, I had asked about that and they said no, Jen actually read me the policy that had been approved, and that it was, whatever was above and beyond wasn't going to another, it was staying in this, and it was for this year. It was staying and rolling over.
I also think we don't need to focus on that too much, because we're at June 5th already, so we have nothing.
No.
We're starting with whatever the town gave us and what little we've received, either in sponsorship or at the snack shack or just the generosity of others. So I think this is all gonna change in just a couple of weeks, hopefully. I don't see why, the warrant wouldn't pass or the article wouldn't pass. So I think, we can probably, going forward, rely on the funds that we're raising. And we want them to go into, any overage to go into the capital fund for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They were saying last year that we didn't have a 5-year plan, so they would not put it in last year.
And that's what they had actually told me when they hired me on, that was actually approved and that it is for this year. No, it was for this year. Because I went back and forth. It was for this year. Just a heads up, in 8 minutes, the Zoom's going to end on us.
So.
I don't think we need to fully focus on that today though, because we're coming up on the end of the month. We can start looking at everything else that we want to start doing. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was gonna say, actually, the ideas that you've had for fundraiser, this is Jennifer, the ideas we've had for fundraisers, like beans and bingo nights, the barbecue could be a fundraiser, not just like, hey, come, it could be like a $2 admission, and if there's 50 people, it's $100.
Totally agree. Yep.
That all could also supplement this budget for people who might need help paying.
Right, and we have the town, whether we would qualify or not, has the Neighbors Helping Neighbors account, and I think that they've been really generous in the past. We've been here about as long as you have, so it's really hard to put the past in perspective, but I think.
Make a plan going forward.
And, that's why we want a plan. Sam's head is just exploding with ideas, and Crystal's too, and what we need to do is, what are our short-term goals, i.e. what are we doing this summer, and how are we going to do it, and how are we going to pay for it? What are we going to do next year? What are we going to do the following year? And how we're going to get there.
And kind of going to the fundraising, because I want to make sure everybody kind of has an idea of what the fundraising idea is for right now, is we have been approved by the Acton Fairgrounds. I wanted to make sure first that we would have a place to even do it before I brought it up, so that everybody would be able to be on the same page to do a fundraiser over there. I don't know if you guys have ever been over for any of the tractor pulls or anything that they have.
Summer.
The Acton Fair?
Yeah, so, well, they have tractor pulls all through the entire summer.
They've been there the last 2 weekends.
Yep, so if you're ever going by and you see them, it's free to go watch them, and it's awesome. And so you can go in and you can watch them. Well, they have so many plans already that when I got approval to use the Acton Fairgrounds free of charge, the only thing that would charge us is if we have to use any electricity, so it would be for the day, is he had called me and said, I don't want to discourage you, but I did want to make sure that you know that we also have the tractor pulls going on. I don't have the list of schedule yet. I said, oh, that would be actually great. So I contacted the tractor pull group and made sure that they would be okay if we did something, especially if it landed on the same day, and they are all for it. What I was wanting to do is do a car show. not charge, so me and my husband are huge into cars. We do all of the old car shows, like there's the one in Berwick today. And one of the things that we hate is when you always have to pay as the car going in to show your car, because that's what's grabbing people to come. So we wouldn't charge people to show their car, we wouldn't charge people to come in, but what we would charge is vendors. He said that we could open up the barn, we could have tables set up in the barn, and we could have people come in as vendors. They sell things, if they make things, or maybe they want to do yard sale stuff, whatever they want to do, they're gonna have a fee, and they can set up a table. Then we would also look at charging, and we would have food trucks. I want to make it a big shindig.
Yep.
And I also want to see if we can do some old-fashioned kids' games, like the sack hop.
Lawn darts.
We can,
maybe kickball, maybe we can do.
That's right.
make sure they're sharp.
So we can use the entire fairgrounds for the most part to do what we want to do.
Right.
Maybe we can do a petting zoo, we can do, we can offer all of these things, see what we can get, and it's gonna be, it would come down to how much do we wanna charge for vendor tables. Me and Crystal do the craft fair every year, this is our second annual one, we charge $35. And whatever they, like the vendors, if you bring a table and you sell $1,500, you only had to pay $35 for that spot and donate one item from your table for us to raffle.
Nice.
And that was it.
That's an easy sell.
Sam,
Yep.
can I interject?
No.
Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah.
Or no? I had 3 thoughts, really quick. Number 1, I agree with you, $30 is good, and having more sponsors this year, so the kids that can't afford it, we can figure out a way that we can pay for them, and then that way we can do that t-shirt every year like you're talking about, and then we definitely have like 100 vendors at least on standby that are willing to pay $35, so we have that, as you know. And then
Yes.
I think that'll be a great idea. And then I'd like to do the school supply donation drive at that same time. Thank you very much. That's it.
So her school donation drive was the idea that oftentimes the teachers have to come out of their own pocket for class equipment. So they want colored pencils, they need crayons, they need, they have some things that are given to them, otherwise they rely on out of their own pocket or donations. So the thought of this is so that if we have, kids that, it's almost like the backpack program. We have kids that can't afford to go out and get a backpack or any of the school supplies they need, which Acton all the way through elementary school supplies everything the kids need. The kids only need a backpack, a water bottle, and lunch, unless they're getting lunch at school, which is fantastic. So with that being said, it would supply, backpacks for kids that would need it. It would give paper and crayons and colored pencils and markers and whiteboard markers and erasers and glue, everything that the school would need, as well as students would need. So setting up a booth that would have donations to take in to do that.
I think there's not
Yeah, that's easy.
Acton that wouldn't get behind that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I know there's oftentimes, there's people looking, hey, I want to help somebody, but I don't know who.
Yep.
And it's not like we want to give out names of, somebody that's struggling with something. We don't want to pinpoint and say, oh, well, hey, Joe Blow needs something. Well, you don't want to, bring that name to attention because they may not want the whole world knowing that they're struggling. So definitely, how much would you guys like to see? Because I need to start looking for food trucks now because it's already, it's getting towards fair season. The idea with the food trucks is, how much would you charge for a food truck to come in?
I think, you had mentioned earlier that, a percentage.
Yeah, and so I've heard some people say that it's 10% of their gross sales or 10% of their, profit.
I think it's simpler if you do.
We could do a flat fee.
I would do a flat fee
I
for
would
each
do a
one.
flat fee, I don't know, like,
$100?
I don't even know what's relative to,
I don't-
like, I'm not in that industry at all, so I don't even know what makes sense.
I
You
think-
can't charge, I'm sorry, you can't charge them on their total sales, because that ends up being way more than their profit.
Yeah, but I think if we're charging them and the day is a disaster for them, then they're out $100 or whatever it is we decide to charge them. If we do it on commission, then no one really loses. And I think, do we want that check in hand before we leave, or do we want to let them go back and say, well, it cost me $700 to be here today, and I sold $800.
Disaster, we're willing to work with them.
Then I think you hit them a little bit harder, maybe it's $200 to come in, right?
Well, I think, so, I hate to say it depends, but like, what's the duration of the event too? If it's a car show and like a fair type thing, it's gonna be probably 6 hours, which is a long time.
So it'd be like 9 to 2. And we would also have the group from, the tractor pulls there. So to me, it'll draw people more because they'll be able to come look at the cars, they'll be able to go through, they'll have activities for the kids, but they'll also be able to go look at the tractor pulls. Originally, I'd thought about it would be kind of cool to do it in the evening, but the tractor stuff is in the morning. And having that extra thing to do is huge when you're just sitting there all day at a car show.
Yeah.
If we want to twirl our monocle and be Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank and make it a good business opportunity for us, you would charge interest, off of their total profit. And I don't think we're here to make money off them necessarily. Like, we want...
No, it's a fundraiser.
We want to attract them while also getting like a little kickback from them, not like, ooh, let's really go into business with you. So I think just in...
Well, what if we say like $100 flat fee or 10% of your total?
Give them a choice.
Well, we can say that, whichever's greater.
Yeah.
What is Pine Ridge doing? Do we know how they're doing it? Because they're likely to have a truck.
They do, they have a few trucks, and I can contact Jane and I can ask her what their fees are to kind of get feedback and an idea, and I can also ask some other people that have some food trucks.
I was gonna say,
What
we
the
should
normal-
ask the food trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's reasonable?
So we'll reconvene on that part, okay.
I guess my bottom line is,
The goal is to get the trucks
we want to
there.
attract them. We're not doing it because we want to
Yeah.
latch onto their business and be making money off them.
Yeah, we do.
We do want to make
I mean,
money.
at the end of the day, we do, but we don't want to gouge them.
Right.
Yeah.
So what, they're part of the attraction. They've got their following, they've got their followers. They're gonna put it on Facebook, and all of the people who want, the main lobster roll that day are gonna come.
Yeah.
So, but that's a mutually beneficial relationship. And we're looking, I think, at a small percentage or a small fee, however.
Don't ever want to overstep with them.
No.
Totally
No, that's
agree.
exactly,
I
especially this is
totally
gonna be
agree.
the first year, and if we can make it work, I would love to make it work so that we have multiple a year.
So if we can find out what they're doing at
Okay.
Pine Ridge, or what they're, there's a park in Portland.
Yeah. We can even ask Congdon's what they do, because they have their nighttime. What would we wanna do for vendor fees, for the table fees? So so for the craft fair, we usually do 35 a table. Do we wanna do 35 a table?
Yeah, I think that's.
I know some places do like 50, and I just don't see it, because it's one of those,
No.
okay.
But I want to go back to the food trucks too. I mean, we can't have a ton of them, because no one will make money.
Right.
If you have 6 food trucks,
It depends, because if we do it as like a food truck park, they all make a lot of money, because it draws, the food trucks draw more people in.
Well, I
And
think
that'll
you're,
draw more people for the vendors.
I think you're both right. I think we just maybe want to take a small step in this direction. Why don't we do 2?
2 or 3, I don't think you want to go too many, because now you're diluting their sales.
Well, it depends on what you have. You want to offer different things. You don't want 10 food trucks that are all poutine, or 10 lemonade stands, or,
Well, I would take 10 poutine trucks.
I don't think I've ever had poutine in my life.
Then you need 10 trucks to give you one.
Okay, so we'll continue working on that. The tentative date that I definitely want to 100% plan on is September 11th. It's a Sunday, because it concurs with a tractor pull. I want to look at another date too, earlier in the season. I just don't know when. He has a lot going on over there, so I don't know if we just start with the one this year and then just try to build off of it next year.
Your Zoom meeting, is it gonna click off soon?
No, I already restarted it.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was playing on my phone for.
Well, frankly, I like the one, and then we can focus, we can do something on our own at the
Is
field.
Carol back?
Whether it's a,
Yeah, I thought so. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we'll focus on the one, September 11th. We're gonna look at something like 9 to 2.
and then
People
do
can come in.
something later in the summer at the fields, and that way we put out our own food. Hopefully we can get some donations, hopefully we can get some volunteers, and we don't need to charge an admission fee, because I agree with you, Jen, we don't want a nickel and dime.
No.
Every time we open the doors, we don't want to be asking for money.
No.
But,
Just a food check.
donations towards food, or, $5 of.
Well, the barbecue is a great idea, because you could also have soccer signups the same day, so people don't
That's
have
true.
to make the trip
Right.
to the town hall.
Right.
We have
Fees.
to see how that's gonna work, because they have to come, currently they have to come here to pay to sign up.
Okay.
So we have to see if we can do a workaround for that.
Why can't we just,
We can't
we're
just
members
have
of the board.
I'm not,
Is there a difference there?
that'll go with something that I'll have to talk with them about, because that's what I've always been told, is that it has to go, all payments have to go through the town hall. So I'm trying to figure a way that I might have to bring it to the selectmen to see if we can change it so that we can do it. Because we are also making t-shirts. We're gonna be selling t-shirts.
Yeah. I mean, anything to make it easier for parents.
Yeah, and
And
that's.
if they pay by check, we can protect the town and say we're only accepting payment by check. And then,
Well, then you have
there's
somebody
no
like
risk
me,
of-
I don't have checkbooks. I have no checks.
Yeah, and you're not alone, I get that. All right, so that's not gonna work.
Can I kind of redirect our focus for a minute? So we have with us today, this is Coach Chad. He is the one that we're working with right now, about trying to do little kickers. So he has, actually, Chad, do you want to come up and kind of introduce yourself to everybody?
Wow, I'm sorry, Chad, we should have probably had him.
I didn't know he was sitting there all this, how long has he been sitting there?
Since 9:30, right?
I didn't want to be rude.
You're good. You can come join us, because then you'll be in the camera too.
I'm really sorry,
We're
we should
recording
have,
everything as well.
we should have had you up first.
No, you're fine.
Off the end.
So the only thing I will mention ahead of time before he starts is, as we get going, in that it would end up being an expense for parents. If they wanted to do it, we'll have to look at how much we would like to charge each individual, and you'll have to give us a guideline again of how many kiddos at a time.
Okay.
I bet you'd be interested.
Well, I'll kind of try to summarize my whole thing as quickly as I can. I grew up here in Sanford. I did the volunteer thing with SSYA for basketball, soccer, and football. For soccer, I started by sponsoring my own soccer team. The way I came about doing that was I decided I wanted to try to play semi-pro football when I was 30 years old, and I wanted to be a kicker. So I sent myself all the way down to Texas to learn how to kick from a private instructor. And then I was kind of like, this is how you run your life, I want to do the same. If you can pay all your bills and run your life by helping kids and coaching kids, I want to do the same. So I came back to Maine and I was thinking, how could I teach kids how to be a kicker and a punter in football? And it's so spread out around here that I thought, well, the way I knew how to kick was by playing soccer. So when people would ask me about football, I would tell them, well, I'm the kicker, I just kick. And that's how I came up with Just Kick for my soccer team and started sponsoring a soccer team in the Sanford Soccer Association. So I did that for about 3 years. In 2014, I started to try to help out with Acton and resurrect their soccer program. So I know it was $20 back then in 2014 as well. And then I had been in a relationship with a woman, things didn't work out, I couldn't find a place to live. I went down to Virginia to be in a buddy's wedding. I was on his football team when I went to Virginia Beach the first time, and he kind of put the bug in my ear to stay down in Virginia. I went on Craigslist. I saw an ad for a middle school position at a school that specialized in dyslexia. I got that job, and I also got hired by the Richmond Kickers to coach in their preschool program called Little Kicks. So I basically left like the Baltimore Colts in the middle of the night and just left, went to Virginia, and I was down there for the last 8 years. I just got back in April. I worked for the Richmond Kickers for 5 years in their preschool program, and I coached at a few different middle schools, had a few clients for private training and things like that. So as I was coming home back to Maine, I was looking into the possibility of getting a field in Sanford. You know, they consider me an organization, even though it's just myself, so they need the liability insurance. They need me to pay for the field rentals. So I continued to look around. I ended up hooking up with Sam in Shapley. I've been helping her with her all sports program that she did. Today's the last day, but I've been volunteering the past few Sundays just to kind of get my foot in the door and introduce myself to people as well. And in this whole process, I've been looking back into sponsoring a team in the Sanford soccer program. Now, they charge $200 to sponsor a team, and normally I just put up my own money to sponsor. So I've tried to, I've kind of gone away from the whole Just Kick thing because COVID-19 kind of ruined it down in Virginia. I had been doing it for about 10 years, and then COVID just kind of put a stop to everything. As that was coming about, I was trying to figure out a way to offer my own mobile enrichment program, is basically what I did for the Richmond Kickers. We would drive around all over the city with all of our equipment, and we'd go to preschools or churches, and we'd run our little soccer games. A lot of stuff was with diagrams like this. I would get the kids to look at it, you know, and I'd have them all sitting, and I'd be like, okay, when I point to something, you tell me what it is. This one I like the best, because what I would do is I would get the little plastic noodles, and I would be the octopus, and the noodles, if I tag the kids, you know, they have to freeze. They're on their little pirate ships trying to find pirate treasures, and the octopus is trying to get them. So I would just kind of explain that to the kids and do a little routine. I'd have them stretch and have them move the ball with their feet and all that, and then we'd play the game for about 10 minutes, and then I'd give all the kids a chance to score a goal and give them a sticker at the end. And with the Kickers, I also coached in their U8, U9 ADP program. It's called Advanced Developmental Program. And on Tuesdays we would train, and on Thursdays they would play the games against the same kids. And I just kind of progressed from there. As far as what I'm doing this year, this is my logo that I've had for a few years. And what we're trying to do with Shapley is we're trying to guarantee that they have other teams to play. So I've given the idea to Sam and Sam here to sponsor a team in the Sanford soccer program to guarantee that you can play against other kids and other teams. She's vocalized that she would like to stay here in Acton, which I understand. Now, another thing that I've talked with Sam and Sam about is doing like a little mini rec travel. Now, if I had a team in Shapley that was willing to come to Acton for 1 week to play a little friendly, and then the following week Acton would come to Shapley and play a friendly, we could get by like that. Now, I also am employed through the YMCA. My location is the North Berwick Elementary. So I've talked a little bit with the principal about possibly doing like a soccer club there as well. But it's kind of a sticky situation because the YMCA has a non-compete clause with programs like the SSYA and Sanford Soccer that they won't offer sports to take away from SSYA and Sanford Soccer, which is kind of crazy to me because every YMCA in the United States offers sports except for the one in Sanford. So what I was thinking about possibly doing in North Berwick is just getting a group of kids, maybe 9 or 10 kids that would be willing to play in friendlies, And we could also have maybe a group of North Berwick kids come to Acton for 1 week to play a friendly match, and the same thing with Shapley. And if we had it all squared away, we could legitimately have 3 games at home and then 3 games on the road, and then the 7th week would be kind of like a round robin tournament at either Shapley or Acton Field. And just, we could probably do that if the coaches and everything were willing to, do it as volunteer. We could probably do that for no charge.
Can I add, yeah, I like the way you're thinking too. I have one question. How many kids do we need to field a team?
Well, that would be up to us. Now, if you wanted to keep it with no goalies, which I would recommend, and play with the little pop-up goals, I know that Sanford does, their U7 program is 5v5. So, I mean, you could get 8 to 10 kids on a team and play 5v5 and they'd have a blast.
For U7, that's practical, yeah.
Right. And I mean, you could even do it with U8s and U9s. I feel like that makes their skills better when they're aiming at a smaller goal rather than a humongous goal with a tiny little kid trying to save the ball. And, as far as kids, under 7 years old and 8 years old is about the limit that I would put a kid playing goalie. I mean, I've seen kids get hurt, 11, 12-year-old kids get hurt just sticking their arm out trying to block the ball, and now they got a fractured wrist because they tried to block the ball.
Our kid broke his own playing goalie.
Right. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. As far as clinics, I've been talking with Sam about offering clinics. Now, I can't do everything as a volunteer. I have done a lot of stuff as a volunteer, but I've put myself through courses to be a certified soccer coach, to coach with kids under 14 years old. I'm a youth fitness instructor. I've worked for numerous clubs down in Virginia. I've worked for clubs around here. I used to work for the Boston Soccer Academy during the summers. I would drive down every day during the summer and work for them. I did the volunteer through SSYA, through Sanford Soccer, and then I've even coached middle school teams here. My first paid gig was actually coaching baseball at Acton, like 100 years ago. I can't remember when it was. I think it was back in, I want to say 2012 maybe. But I coached at Gray New Gloucester. I coached soccer there. I've also coached lacrosse. I've done the volunteer lacrosse thing. I've done the thing at Greeley. As far as my mobile enrichment program, I've been trying to kind of not focus too much on the Just Kick Soccer. I have a mobile enrichment program I'm trying to kick off. I call it Smaller Ballers. And basically what it would be is a mobile enrichment program to offer kids soccer, basketball, and football. And it'd be non-contact, but it would be a program that I would go to the church or to the school. I'd bring in my own equipment, my own basketballs, my own soccer balls, my own footballs, and just basically teach the kids how to play these sports. Because a lot of situations that I run into is when kids are in middle school, they might be an 8th grader, and they're like, well, I'm trying out for soccer for the first time. Well, it's like, where have you been before? Why did you try out? Well, I didn't think I'd make the team. And they're intimidated. I want these kids to not be intimidated. I want them to be like, well, heck, I've done this with Coach Chad a million times. I'm going to go try out for my school team. And another thing that I wish that Maine would adopt is allowing 6th graders to play on the middle school team. Whenever I would say junior high to people down south, they'd be like, what the heck is that? They didn't know what a junior high was. Their middle school is 6th, 7th, and 8th. And they allow 6th graders to try out. Now, I've had kids on my teams that they played 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and that was like a big thing at the end of the season. They're taking pictures with their buddies, like, we played 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in middle school soccer, and it's like an accomplishment to them. And I feel like there's this gap between sports here in Maine that when the kid hits 12 years old, if there's not a spot for them on their middle school team, and there's not a spot for them in the rec program, which Sanford has nothing past U9, you have to play travel. Not every kid is a travel caliber soccer player or an AAU basketball player or a stud football player. So there's that gap, and a lot of kids just stop playing because of that. I don't know who you'd have to talk to about that, but that's just something that I've had in the back of my mind that I feel like Maine needs to adopt to stop losing these kids.
And I know with that, our rec seems to kind of end for the most part at 6th grade from all of the papers. So I want to make sure that we offer up to 8th grade. Because they're in Acton from pre-K to 8. I would love to be able to start them off at 2.5, which he does, which is fantastic. I'd love to be able to start them off at 2.5. I've got a lot of parents with those little kids that are like, I need something to do with my kid and I don't know what to do. And they're looking for these enrichment activities. And I want to be able to keep them entertained, because I'd rather them be on the field and doing stuff with the rec than the alternative. Because there is so much of that alternative, especially when they get to high school, that it's depressing. And I would really rather see them spending their time doing something else.
And one of the sad things about being down south as well was, a lot of kids, like if they played travel or for like a travel team, they would have to sign a contract that said that they would not play for their middle school team or their high school team. And I just think that's terrible. The kids have so much fun.
We should be so lucky though. I mean, put it in perspective to have kids who were so interested in playing, or organizations who were so interested in having those kids come to them. I mean, we should be jealous of that.
Right.
Two different worlds. They take sports pretty
Very seriously.
Yeah, for sure. And in Virginia, you know, it took me a while to get my foot in the door as well, but I put teams in the city program. So basically, for their city program, I think it was $150 per team. And if you didn't live in the district of the city of Richmond, they made you pay like a $20 fee. Like there's all kinds of like different counties. It's so spread out. It took me a while to get used to it. But for about 4 years, we would play year-round. I had U6, U8, U10, and U12, and I even had high school kids that stuck with me from middle school up to high school. And we played outside in the spring, we played inside in the summer. They have a couple facilities similar to XL Sports World. They actually have an XL Sports World in Richmond, and then they have another place called the Sports Center of Richmond. So we would play inside in the summertime. We go back outside in the fall, and then we'd be back inside in the winter. And getting those kids inside on turf, it increases their foot skills tremendously because the ball is traveling so much faster. They have to be more precise with trapping the ball with their passing. They can't just kick it and run. It's more precision. So I did that for about 4 years, and I just kind of got burnt out. I was doing everything myself. I was wearing every hat in the whole thing. I didn't have much help. I had a few people that would help me coach. I got to the point where I would run. I would charge per season. I would charge $125 per season. And then I used to give the jerseys out, but then I got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep reusing these jerseys, and it was a way for me to get the kids to show up early. I say, look, if you want number 10, you better get here on time, and then you can pick number 10, and that's your number for the game. After the game, they turn it back in, and we just keep going and going and going. I had mostly Hispanic kids. When I coached at a middle school called Brooklyn Middle School, it's very diverse, and I had mostly Hispanic kids. And the way that I basically started with that was one of the little brothers walked up to his brother after the game and took his cleats and put his cleats around his shoulders and was just like wanting to carry his brother's equipment. I thought that was the cutest thing in the world, and I'm like, I gotta start my own thing with these kids. And, you know, they'd have little brothers or cousins, and we would just keep going and going and going. And at one point, I had about 50 kids in the program and 4 teams. And then, you know, slowly, it kind of started evaporating because of the COVID. So.
No, all good ideas, and a lot for us to think about.
How can we help?
So the biggest question is, so he needs to be able to get liability insurance. So with that, it's going to increase the price just a little bit. So we would be.
So what would the price be?
That's what we have to decide as a group.
Right, that's what y'all would decide.
Because it's going to be an 8-week, 1 day a week course is what they'll be taking. Okay. And we can focus on just soccer, so that by the time, like if we start it in July, do July and August, start it after the 4th, do July and August, as soon as the clinic is over, it would be going right into soccer season. Yeah. So for those kids that are at the school that are playing in the school leagues, and then the kids that want to play on the rec, it gives them all that chance to be able to work on their skills.
So that's what's on the table right now is How many weeks did you say?
It's 8.
8 week?
Yep.
Once a week, and then at
Once.
the Acton field?
Yep, we would do it at the Acton Field. And we'd be looking at, our cost for the rec, if we do it 2 hours a day for 8 weeks, would be $800. If we do 3 hours one day for 8 weeks, it would be $1,200. So it comes down to how much we want to charge, because we would take these groups and he would be doing back-to-back with the groups. So with our 2.5 to say 5 or whatnot, there were 2.5 to 3.5, and then kind of depending on how many we have.
1 to 3 hours, that's for each group, right?
Nope, that's total.
Right, so like, let me break it down for
Yeah.
you. So like, for the first hour, what I would recommend is the smallest kids.
Right.
I used to do 30-minute sessions for them. After about 25 minutes, they're tapped out.
Right.
So you could have 2 groups for that first hour for 30 minutes apiece, or 1 40-minute group. And then the next hour would be like an increase in age. And then, if it's like 5, 6, and 7-year-olds, they're pretty decent for an hour. And then after that,
You'd look to stagger age groups for the 3 hours, not all together.
Right.
Too much.
Correct. And then just, give me like a 5 or 10-minute break in between to set up for the next group, but y'all could do that however y'all feel necessary.
Could we get high school kids in that too, in the clinic?
To help or to be in it?
No, to be in it.
So my experience,
Little ones, and then 5, 6, 7.
We have all,
8th grade.
we go all the way up to 8th grade. In 8th grade, you're looking at 12, 13.
All right, so that.
So I probably would just focus on the grades that we have here now.
That's fine.
And if we want to have high school kids come in and help,
Right.
we can probably get you a couple helpers.
yeah, in my experience is usually once they get to 8th grade, they don't really want to train and practice. They want to show up to the games and show out and just show off and things like that.
So we do an hour or a half an hour, however it divides for the little ones, and then we do an hour, so like for 4th, 5th, 4 and 5-year-olds, and then 6 through 8.
I wanted to circle on 2 other things. Did you mention basketball was in your wheelhouse?
Sure, it is.
So we had a gentleman that was doing basketball camp all summer, and I think last summer was his last summer at the Nassau Community Center. Now he travels the states in like an RV, and he's done, as far as I know. Like, he's not coming back.
Yeah, I know that there's like, there's a lot of coaches that have already booked Nassau, and I tried getting in there, and they were like, we don't have anything available. But I know the coaches. I actually might be coaching JV at Noble. I'm friends with the varsity coach. He was actually a kid that I coached in soccer, and he met with me a few years back and was basically wanted to kind of do what I was doing as far as coaching. He was like, how can I become a coach and live off of the income? And I just kind of gave him my 2 cents about it, and now he's gone every weekend coaching basketball and tournaments. And
I wanted to see if you were covering basketball, and if we could cover as Acton any sort of ownership of that former role, but it sounds like we kind of missed the bus on that.
Well, me and him have also talked about if we decided to do, like, say that we wanted to do basketball clinic and we wanted to do a soccer clinic, that we can, we might be able to grab him twice a week and offer a basketball one.
That's what I was.
And then offer a soccer one.
That's what I was.
Yeah, so,
hinting at.
Does he do any coaches clinics? That's something that I would
Yeah,
really like to see.
I could do that as well.
Coaches clinics also.
yeah, basically what I do for coaches clinics, the Kickers had hired me to do that. We worked with a Upward Bound program, and basically what I do is I just get all the coaches and I tell them, okay, put on your imagination cap, you're now a 5-year-old child. And I just show them how I do it, and I take the same blueprint with the peewees, the little preschoolers, all the way up to the 8th graders. The first drill is something that's gonna be dribbling. The second drill is gonna be something that's passing. The third drill is gonna be something with shooting.
oops,
And
sorry.
then, if it was more like, if it wasn't necessarily like a clinic and more of like a practice, I always keep the last 15 minutes for a scrimmage. If it's if it's a set clinic and it's just a group of kids that were teaching the basic skills, then I wouldn't normally scrimmage at the end. I'd have like some type of a game, like a shooting game at the end.
Knock it out or something.
knockout or something like that. For soccer, the kids like to play lightning or thunder, whatever it's called, same concept.
Now, if you were doing a coaches clinic, how long would that last and how?
The coaches clinic, well, I could do that for like an hour, hour and a half, and, you know, 20, 25 bucks a coach, and then, you know, bring your notebook and.
I saw a few coaches this week, or this past basketball season that they were craving some sort of feedback loop and instruction to coach, so I think that would be huge.
I was thinking about making a YouTube channel, basically for people like yourself that just say, hey, well, how do I structure this practice, and just kind of show how to structure a practice. It's been something I've been thinking about. I did make a quick video that I sent to Sam, just with like pictures. What I used to do, the kids, it used to drive them nuts, but after every practice, we'd get a group. I say, everybody put your arms around each other, and we take a group picture. Same thing after every game. And then I tell people, you know, if you want to check out my fan page, just click on photos, click view all, and make sure you got about an hour to scroll through, because there's going to be a million pictures. And that's basically what I did, putting that together as far as what I was trying to offer, just to kind of show people. I used to go live on the page to show our games and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure you could probably even watch some of the games.
And what do you use for field sizes, game times, rules in the game and stuff like that? That's something that we started working on a few years ago, and
now, as far as like your league?
As far as across board, so if you're going from town to town, that everyone is licenses are the same size, that the basic rules are the same, like 5-on-5.
Do you standardize your
and
your
you know what you're doing for different
yeah, that I'm really. Yeah, I'm not really sure on that. I'm behind the ball on that, because I haven't coached here since 2014 was the last time I coached here. So like when I show up personally, I just use what I got. You know, I've done stuff in rooms like this. You know, for the preschool kids, you know, there's some schools you'd show up and they just have a room. You know, I'd get them all to sit down with their ball. We do the soccer ball drums. You know, we do the toe taps with our feet, and then I'd play the Wake Up Uncle Frank game behind the wall, and I'd put my ear to the wall, and I'm snoring. You know, we got to wake up Uncle Frank. So everybody, on the count of 3, you kick the ball at the wall and say, "Wake up Uncle Frank!" And we try to get him to wake up.
For clinics, it's not really applicable. She's probably more wondering about like leagues.
Yeah, I mean, if we did our own like league, like I was saying, the little back and forth, we would just, you know, decide that amongst ourselves, whatever y'all thought was.
Use what we have.
We're gonna have the standardized word, that's already that's a page that we haven't turned yet, so we didn't have any published work or anything. It was up to the refs, me and James, to tell the kids what was up, and it's like, we could have made anything up we wanted. We could have been like 20 fouls and you're out of the game, and the parents would have been like, okay.
You do basketball, right?
I do every sport, but baseball, but I could do baseball as well. I mean, I played baseball growing up.
I'm going to add somebody to help coach for basketball this year. He just turned 18 and he really wants to coach basketball. He's a senior graduating right now.
Take everyone in here.
And then I got another high schooler that wants to help, because that's her world is basketball.
Yeah.
So she's not 18, so she can't coach, but she can assistant.
Awesome.
So.
That's a staff right there.
Yeah, I feed in a lot of the high school kids, and I get them. I mean, he's got a couple of them on his older team for baseball, and.
I mean, as far as soccer, I always recommend the short-sided games with the pug goals, just because you don't need as many kids, and then you don't need to get a kid playing goalie. And I mean, you can get that, you can standardize that. You can say, look, these pop-up goals are the 5x7 or whatever they are, and then just go as a committee and get, you know, a couple of sets, and then give that to your coaches to practice with, and same thing, and that would be the games as well. When I was in Virginia, it took me a little while, but I was lucky to find a church that was willing to let me use their field. I drove by it a million times, and they had full-size goals, and I went out there and I was just counting the field one day, walking the steps, and I knocked on the door, and the pastor happened to be there. I told him what I was doing, and I was looking for a place to practice. Then he said, well, you got a place now. And I said, well, how much will you charge me? He said, nothing. He said, I've been praying to God that somebody like you would show up and get kids out here on this field, because nobody uses it. So we would, I would cut the grass myself. I would use my own gas to cut the grass. I had a guy that worked for, it was called AccuMark, so he would get the paint for the field. I would paint the field. I'd get it looking real nice.
You, John.
Yeah, and then, I mean, and we would do like that.
Sometimes my lines look like.
And then I would have a barbecue every year, Memorial Day weekend, and we would just charge $5 a plate. We would tell the parents bring food that they'd like, but we would charge $5 a plate. And then you get a family of 4 coming in, they give you $20. They eat as much as they want. We'd have little raffles going on. I'd raise like $500-600 every year. I'd put it right back into the program. I'd buy the canopies or a big wagon to tow all my stuff, or a big cooler, or buy jerseys and just put it back in. And they did the same thing that y'all were talking about too with the car shows. I don't know exactly what they charged, but that was a big thing for them too. They would get the cars to come in, everybody would look at the cars, and then they'd have the little vendors and people selling food and stuff. I did chili the last time. And, you know, that made a huge difference, having that church on board to help. I didn't necessarily get any kids from there, and they also ran a program every year. They called it PRISM. It was Parham Road and Sports Ministry. And they would help the special needs kids, like kids that are autistic or have, you know, mental challenges or whatever. They would have the Virginia Commonwealth University coaches come in, and they would run that session for them. And they just do little things like that to kind of advertise and things like that. But I mean, you know, I've worked for pretty much all the programs you can think of. I worked for I-9. I worked at the indoor facility called SCORE. The same thing they do up at XL Sports World with the little kids. I did that. I mean, I've worked at middle schools. I've worked for academies. I've pretty much done everything you can do with sports as far as that goes. So I definitely have the experience.
What is the max amount of kids that you can do by yourself?
I mean,
Into the clinics.
if I have like another parent willing to kind of stand there and help out.
There's plenty.
Yeah, we can get you people that would help each
Yeah,
time.
we used to cap them at 12, you know, but if I have other people there willing to help me and I got eyes on another group of kids, I mean, I could probably do at least, 15, 16 per group.
Okay. Just
We also have some really good teenagers, not to take anything away from the adults around the table, but we've got a couple of teenagers who are ready, willing, and able, and by able, I mean as mature as any of us.
Yeah, I used to do that too.
99% of it.
Unless you catch them on the bus with their group of friends.
I'd get the young kids, or sometimes I'd get somebody's older brother, because at one time when I had 4 teams, I couldn't get them to schedule me back to back. There was sometimes, they had a game at this field and another game at the same time, so I'd have to get, coaches and volunteers to help out and things like that. What I used to do once I would charge the parents for the season, we would practice twice a week at the church, and I would charge $2 a kid. And people would be like, well, that's nothing. Why would you charge that? Well, because that way I can turn around. If I had 20 kids and I used to have a girl, Sydney, that would help, I'd have to be answering all the questions to all the parents. I can't really focus on training the kids. And now I'm not looking professional if I'm trying to talk to the parents and not coach the kids or vice versa. So I would pay Sydney, $20 for the hour or whatever I had. Sometimes I'd pay her more. And then I would make my own gear, and I would give her like a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or whatever. And then, but I forgot to mention it, but when I was back home in Maine, they don't have it in Virginia. You don't have the returnables. But I started this thing called Kicking Cans. And I went and I would buy the brand new Rubbermaid trash barrels. I'd cut the hole in the top lid, put a trash bag in there, and that was where the returnables would go. And I would use the money from the returnables to put it towards equipment. Things like that. Like I coached at Biddeford Middle School. I had a boy from Iraq. He never had his own pair of cleats or shin guards. So with the Kicking Cans funds, I went and bought him a pair of cleats. I bought him a pair of shin guards, and he was as happy as could be.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of this, or at least we're starting to implement a lot of these things. We have Clink, so,
Yeah,
you know,
I
we
set up
bring
Clink
all of
last
these,
week.
so that should be, you know, I brought a bag home, so, I mean, we should see some revenue from that. But
Yeah,
we're-
spaghetti dinners and barbecues are
Yeah.
great. I mean, you could, what we did once for Massabesic United, when I was helping out with them, is Applebee's got on board with the flapjack breakfast, I think it was, and you just sold the tickets, and the parents, like, you didn't even have to go. Like, some people would just buy the tickets to help, but then the kids were the ones that served the food to all the guests and everything. We did that with Massabesic United. I don't know how successful it was, but, you know, if you got a facility like this, you could always have the kids be like the waiters, you know, and the servers, and then the parents and the families get to enjoy the meal.
To kind of touch on a couple of the fundraisers, because we're kind of in that aspect. I want to also do, have you guys ever done candy bars?
Yeah.
So I want to do the candy bars. Because, yeah, it's easy, everybody always wants to buy them. They're, what, I think they're $1 or $2 a piece,
I say they're
whatever.
really cheap, I mean, that's a good
Yeah.
money maker.
And, the other thing I want to do is this fall, I want to work over with, Fairfield Farm, is that the name, Farmfield?
Yep,
One on-
Farmfield.
The one on 202 in Lebanon. Amazing, amazing group. They're just seasonal. But in the fall, they do a mom's fundraiser where we just literally take order forms, people buy them, and they do the rest. They hand out the flowers, they order the flowers. I think they have a cap at like 400 per group is what the max that we could order. And we don't even order them. Again,
yeah.
everybody else that wants them will order them. It goes right through them.
Good idea.
Everyone wants some.
And they do the most, so instead of, because our Boy Scouts down in Virginia did popcorn.
Yeah.
And I think moms up here would do a lot better.
Yeah, moms are amazing. So I want to, those are a couple things that I want to look at too, because I want to be able to fundraise. My biggest things that I want to accomplish sooner rather than later is get us Little League sanctioned, and I've got to figure out how to do that.
Lost your call.
Oh,
So do we want to hash out real quick what we're interested in moving forward with, what's your organization formally called? Just Kickers?
I call my soccer program Just Kick United,
Just Kick United, okay.
and then the whole, with all the sports, I call that Smaller Ballers.
Smaller ballers, okay.
Yeah.
Should we
So do
try
we have
to?
do we have what the budget would be starting in July so that we would know?
I have the budget, but it didn't include this yet, because this is something completely new, that we were looking at, because my biggest thing, I want to keep that field going. I want something going on it year round.
Do we have the interest? Do you think, I mean,
I
you guys
think
know,
I
I have no idea. Do we have the interest? If we needed 10 kids, so we've got 5 and 5?
Can we give you, like, if we want to do 2 hours or 3 hours, can we give that to you after we get kids that sign up?
Yeah.
So that we have an idea of how many kids we're talking.
Well, so if you looked at $1,200 and did it like this, if you had 30 kids and charged them $40 for the session, that would pay the $1,200.
Right, and these people are used to paying 20 bucks to kind of go
Well,
back
this is-
to Lori's point, and I'm fine with upping it. This is, I don't want to say a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but right now, this is a new opportunity for the town and for the kids, and I think if there's interest, it probably isn't too much.
No,
No, I
because
think it's-
this is more of a clinic than
Yeah,
Right.
it's not.
sport, so
it's
this is a
not-
training.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
This is a
It's not the weekly baseball.
Yeah,
soccer.
right.
This isn't,
Right.
this is with a professional that does it.
I understand, but where does it go? So they take this specialized clinic, just hear me out, and this is not negative, this is just,
Try to
let's
process.
just think what we're doing. So we're gonna offer this fabulous clinic and everyone's gonna sign up. What is the next step? Now we're gonna charge them, let's just say we're gonna go up $5, Sam, just to split the difference between you and Lori until we settle this. We're gonna charge $25 for the season. Will we get those same kids to come back? Will we be able to build on our investment?
Well, now, to answer your question with that, soccer is such a weird sport around here because a lot of parents aren't thinking about signing their kid up right now. They're thinking about what they were doing for Memorial Day weekend. They're thinking about who's graduating in their family, blah, blah, blah. They're not thinking about paying this fee so their kids can play games in September. So that's why these summer clinics, like what I'm trying to do with Shapley, is kind of keeping the parents refreshed, like, oh yeah, we got soccer coming up. But to answer your question as far as will those kids come back, I mean, that would be up to y'all how you advertise.
Well, that was more of a question for the parents around the table.
Right.
So again, I love this idea. It sets the kids up for the future, but is this a future that the kids are looking for?
Yes, because, so we have, with COVID, when COVID happened, because I've talked to the school athletic department a lot too, they had such a drop in kids that were playing sports because they just didn't know how. It's kind of like what you're finding with the baseball
Right.
kids. They didn't know what to do and how to do it because they had so many cancellation things. So I'd actually talked with them, and because if we run the program like we're kind of talking about, so by the time it ends, it's right as school's starting, it goes right into the soccer season. So with that being said, if they want to play with the school, they can. They can, you know, you gotta try out and all that. If they get on it, fantastic. If not, they can back to the rec.
Back to the rec.
So we might not get every one of the kids. But they'll still be playing.
We want to build on that investment. We don't want it to be one and done. We don't want to
No.
put out $40 and cleats and new sneakers and shin guards and elbow guards and all of that.
Yeah, but they're
If it's-
also looking at their kids gaining these skills, so when soccer starts up in
Yes.
September.
Right, but now we're 40 plus another 25 and just.
That's still cheaper than
all of the
Sanford usually.
apparel that goes, right. But
Oh, I know what you're saying.
But I just want to make sure that we're able to continue building on what they've just learned with Chad. So I don't want it to fall apart, you know, after
I
the
think
clinic.
especially if the parents that are taking their kids are gonna be coaching the same kids.
Yes.
It's gonna be a
And
continuation.
they will. They
Well,
will.
and-
I'm gonna be coaching, I know James and a few other, men that are gonna be taking their kids to,
Clinic.
a clinic, but with a smaller ballers, whatever that entails, if it includes basketball eventually, or I like the basketball, football, soccer idea. My kid's been asking about football.
Yes.
Since he was born, I feel like, and no one offers football around here.
Yeah, and see with football, like I have all the footballs. What I do is I would just get the kids a football, put them through some cone drills, you know, moving around, pretending somebody's chasing them, going through the little ladder drills.
That would scratch an itch that a lot of young boys.
Yeah, teach them how to throw the ball correctly, where to put their hands on the grips and the laces and all that stuff. There wouldn't be any type of tackling, and that'd be something that would be said right from the beginning, like, look, y'all are not tackling each other. There is no contact, there's no two-hand touch, there's no contact, it's just moving your feet and learning how to hold the football correctly.
And I like the way you're thinking. So you do the skill drills and then there's a scrimmage at the end of the day. Maybe scrimmage isn't the right word for, you know, all of the sports at the end of the day, but you learn the drills and you learn the skills and then you put them into action for the last, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Got a little sidetracked. I wanted to finish my thought, which was, I think a lot of the men that are taking their kids to the practices, myself included, will stay, kind of learn a little bit from his clinic. He's offering expertise that you don't get every day.
Absolutely.
And that's gonna roll right into soccer season, in my opinion.
And I can tell you right now that you're gonna get, from what I've seen at baseball, the pre-K and kindergarten kids, there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Playing baseball, and those kids are gonna go right through into soccer.
Yep.
I guarantee 60 or 70% of those kids are gonna keep going.
Yep.
And then the next step up, the first and second graders, there's quite a few of them, and I think they're gonna do the same thing, because I was talking with some of the coaches yesterday, and they're already talking about soccer.
Yeah, like I feel like Acton's similar to the kids I've got in North Berwick. Like, they're not necessarily a baseball player, but they sign up and play baseball because that's what's offered in that town. And then, like you said, they go from baseball to soccer because that's what's offered. And then from soccer to basketball because that's what's offered.
And they were talking about basketball yesterday too.
Yeah.
So I've already talked with some of the coaches about that
The
stuff.
bottom line seems to be is we have a lot of interest for the sports, like the numbers will be there, and the crux of most of our arguments seem to center around money.
And I think, like, for basketball too, with the issues that I heard that you guys had last year in basketball, I think doing a clinic like this for basketball would be huge.
We had a few coaches that hadn't played basketball,
Yeah,
which is
so-
insane to imagine. You're coaching basketball and you've never played the sport. It's
Right.
like,
So
they need some help.
I would love to set up, as long as everybody else is on board, I'd love to set it so that we can do the clinic for soccer. We can set up maybe and do a coinciding clinic for basketball, during the same period.
Yeah.
And then I would like to set up a coach's clinic, And that way we can at least post about that. We might have to do a couple different ones
Yep.
throughout the time as long as he's game. And if it works well this year, we can look into next year and continuing. And I'd also love to do, maybe we can try to schedule a couple days of doing the full-on clinic with you having all variety.
Yeah, I mean,
And do something for
I'm down
football.
for
We can figure out
anything.
about football too.
On the table for smaller ballers right now, is it kind of, we're in consensus that we're pretty optimistic about soccer and then the possibility of basketball, or?
I'd like to set them both up simultaneously.
Okay.
Now, the only concern I have for soccer, and I've voiced my opinion with Sam, is, I mean, I know that y'all want to stay here in Acton, but do you think you would have enough kids that would come out that you could have like a 4-team age group for U7, a 4-team age group for U8, U9, so they're playing against different kids? I mean,
No, because we already went through this dog and pony show. We have
Part of
like,
that was COVID though.
you think so?
Yeah, like like last soccer season, we
It was
had
two
two
teams.
teams.
Because-
Every week.
yeah, because see,
Still nervous about COVID.
when I would coach for the kickers in their ADP program, they'd kind of get the parents as far as saying, well, they play games, right? So then the kids would show up on Thursday and they think they're playing against another team, and it's like, no, you're playing against the same kids that you trained with, except one group is wearing white jerseys and the other group's wearing red jerseys.
That's how our.
That's what we're doing now.
That's how it,
Fine, but how many times can you do that with the kids not going, oh my gosh, we played these guys last week?
that might be the way that this year, unless we can do the friendlies, that might be the way that this year works as well, while we're coming out of the COVID time, in hopes that next year we'll be able to offer more. Next
Right.
year we'll be able to, but if, the way that I'm thinking is if we can get the clinic set, we might have more interest, we might have more kids, because those kids will be able to come into a clinic and get an idea if it's something that's for them at all.
If they're having fun.
Yeah. And I think for the coaches too, because we can't have people coaching basketball and think we're gonna go and play Shapley or, someone else if we don't have coaches who, haven't played before. So I think that just sets us up for, this is just a wild card year. This just all sets us up for the future.
Yep, and whatever happens, I mean, we're gonna learn. We're gonna, some things are gonna be successful and some things are gonna be a failure. So the only way that we can do it is by trying.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the littles are gonna drive it because
Oh my
there's so
gosh.
many of them.
There's 23 kids on the
Then
T-ball
it's just
team.
gonna keep
That was
moving
really neat
up.
to hear. I didn't imagine that.
you know?
Oh, they come and the whole place just explodes, and then it
Our first game of
dwindles.
the day on Saturdays is packed.
And we've got 3 or 4 littles that aren't at the age yet for doing the T-ball, that they're just turning 3 and whatnot. And the parents are like, so do we have anything that we can do with these guys? Do we have anything? So this would be
Yeah.
amazing.
And soccer, I feel like, is the easiest sport to get a child that age into.
It pretty much is.
Right, there's just a clump of
Right, and
kids.
they need a pair of sneakers and a
Football.
ball, and they can play at
Exactly, they
home,
don't
and
really
can
need
hit
shin
between
pads and
trees.
cleats.
Yeah.
It's just show up whatever's comfortable.
Yeah.
If somebody has a hard time paying for it, we can look into taking care of it.
And I know,
Typically is our biggest sport also. Last year we had 70-something kids for soccer, right up to grade.
There you go.
There we go. We'll have our
Kids for 6
soccer.
and I heard y'all talking about,
Up to 6th grade, but we had 70-something kids for up to grades 5 last year. So we did pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. We did 3rd, 4th, and 5th together because.
Oh, that makes me feel, yeah, that's good, those are good numbers.
Here's a question. If we have for the soccer,
Do 3rd, 4th, and then 5th, 6th. And if you look at the numbers in the schools, sometimes the different grades, the numbers fluctuate so much. I mean, in the old days, there used to be about 30 to 35 kids per grade level in Acton, and sometimes it's around that, but
12,
what you're seeing sometimes is a lot less, in the mid-20s. So that's gonna make the numbers fluctuate also, and unfortunately, can't do too much about bringing other kids in if there are no other kids in the town to bring in.
right,
That makes sense.
question. So for the clinics and that, like say, we're talking about a clinic, would we be able to, where we're trying to get all the age gaps, can we say yes to those kids that just finished 8th grade because they're not in the high school yet? Can they, because then it sets them up
Yeah.
for starting.
yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely, I don't ever want to
Okay.
push kids away, I mean, my problem was when I coached the middle school was having to cut kids. I would get teary-eyed a little bit, because I've been cut so many times. I'd be like, I don't want to cut you, like, I'm sorry. You know, and I would tell my 7th graders that I cut, if you come out for me as an 8th grader, I'll keep you, you know? But that was the worst part for me, was having to turn kids away, you know?
Yeah, and I think conversely, what John is saying, some of these kids really are showing some talent. You know, so they should be, you know, moving up between, you know, even though they might be X years old, they could be playing with some of the older kids because, you know, they're focused, or they have the talent, or they've played it before, they have more experience, or, you know, whatever. So we want to...
We're not at that point yet with baseball here, but, I mean, that's the way I grew up.
Right.
I was always the
Upping it, yeah.
youngest,
Yeah.
littlest kid on every
Yeah.
team I played.
I used to make the travel teams and all that stuff. I didn't even realize it, but like coaches would pick me, hey, play here. Okay, I didn't even really know what was going on, you know? So,
Yeah, I like this, and I didn't realize, Lori, that there were so many kids involved in the program.
So
So
that's
my
good.
fear
That's
was
good.
just, you know, putting out this money, which is, well, and have it just kind of end there, but that's really good. That
Yeah, we'll
sets
definitely
us
be able
up.
to pay it.
Yeah. Especially,
We had 72
And the
kids.
same thing, basketball, we had around 60 for basketball, and we had, low 20s for cheer.
Are you
So we had
saying-
81 kids
16.
for basketball
Oh,
and cheer last
16,
year.
all right.
So the numbers are pretty good for those. Baseball is just not, you know, one of the ones that's always been low numbers for various
Okay.
different reasons.
okay,
But
okay.
So what is our thought on, then, can we all agree that we can, you know, go for it and say $40 a kiddo, and then if they have financial constraints, the parent really wants to put them in, to still reach out to, like, I can reach out to me and we'll figure something out for sponsorship?
Do we want to see,
now, well,
do we want to
how
see
many
what our
kids
numbers
will
are
40
first?
cover, sorry.
Do we want to see what our numbers are?
Well, we have to give a price when we post out, though.
I think it is what it is. It's $40.
It's,
the 40
because this
would
is
be
a skill,
the
this
8-week clinic.
isn't, yeah, this is the 8-week clinic. This isn't for playing the game, this is for an 8-week, hands-on,
which comes down to basically $5 a session.
yeah, $5 a session.
Advertise it like that,
Yeah.
you know?
That's, okay.
Have a flyer or something. that
We
you've
did
already-
40 for.
I have something small.
Hold on, Lori, we can't hear you.
So I think 40 would be a good number.
Okay, yeah, because as I say, they did.
Cover our
that a while
cost,
ago.
I guess is my question. Will that cover our cost,
Yeah,
for the clinic?
If we have 30 kids at $40 a piece, that'll cover us for 3 hours a day for 8 weeks.
Yeah, we would obviously.
And then what would we do if we only had, if we had less kids sign up? Would we go down to the 800 and place them?
If we had, yeah, if we have,
At 3 hours?
We're together.
I was gonna say, if we have less kids that sign up, then we'll just drop down to the 2 hours versus, because for 2 hours, it's 800, and for the 3 hours, it's 1,200. So if we don't have the numbers, then we can cut it to, we can plan on doing the 2 hours. So we're not gonna give any times yet until we figure out how many would be interested, and we can start.
You know, this is a little bit off the subject, but it's just something that I came across the other day. I've never heard of this group. It's called Maine Lightning Soccer Club. And somebody was commenting, well, how much is it for the season? $1,850 they want for a season. And I'm like, I don't even earn that in a season coaching at a middle school. And some of these parents are paying this. And I got myself in a little bit of trouble down south with this too, that the whole travel program in America for boys soccer is not working. And it was very evident when the United States did not qualify for the World Cup, that these travel programs they're not working. These travel coaches are pulling a couple kids from this town, a couple kids from this town. They're getting the money from the parents, and it's paying for this coaching title, the director of coaching, or this group had like 20 coaches. That's what that money's paying, is these coaches' salary. Is your kid really learning anything? I had kids that played for me when I say, have you played soccer before? Oh yeah, I play in my neighborhood against other neighborhoods all the time. They have these apartment complexes that they just use the space in the middle, and they play each other. And I had a kid that never played anything but rec. he made the U14, they were called the Richmond United, which you didn't just walk on, you had to get invited. He made that U14 team as a 12-year-old, and he had only been playing rec. So it really doesn't matter, like, what program you put them in. The kids are either gonna excel or they're not.
Right.
You know, you give them the tools, they'll excel. I mean, I don't feel like, you know, that your kid's gonna get any better by paying $2,000 to play in
Yeah.
one season.
The delta between the prices doesn't make sense.
Not at all.
And culturally, as the United States, we're not like a soccer,
You know,
football and baseball.
yeah, and before, you know, when I helped out with Massabesic United, you know, I told them, I said, y'all need to be careful because these people from Seacoast United and all these British coaches that come in, the British Challenger Soccer Academy, which I've worked for too, Seacoast United, I've worked for them too, okay? They're gonna come in with their funny accents and the parents are gonna think they're great and they're gonna say, hey, well, you pay us this amount and we'll run your rec program for you, and then now you're paying them instead of paying the community. And that's what I don't want to see happen with all these rec programs around here. Like Sanford's kind of gone away from that. You know, but there's some places that they'll hire these coaches and these organizations to come in and think that it's going to improve when all they're trying to do is they're trying to get in so they can be in charge. They're the ones that can set the prices and they're the ones that collect the fees and whatnot so that they can pay themselves and their coaches. You know, like my boss for the Richmond Kickers, she was a wife to one of the pro players, and that's how they started their whole thing. They have a pro team. I'm not sure which tier they're in. They're like way below MLS, but that's how they started it, was their pro players would go to these preschools and they would coach these little kids, and that's how they advertised it. Well, then all the pro coaches couldn't always be there, you know, because they've got a game, so then they'd reach out to other people like myself, and that's how we would come in. I mean, they would pay me $50 an hour, and you think, well, wow, that's a lot of money, right? Well, I might have a school that I've got 5 30-minute sessions, okay? I made $125 in 2.5 hours. That seems like a lot, but they're charging, if there's 10 kids in each group, you got 50 kids that they just charge $75 a pop for an 8-week program. You know, and all my boss did was drop off flyers and collect checks or online payments. She's not doing anything. She's sitting at home in this big old expensive house raising a couple kids while all these other coaches are doing all the work, and then they're making all that money off of it. And that's why I'm like, well, I did the same thing with landscaping. When I used to landscape for other companies, I figured out, well, they charge this much for mulch, they charge this much per hour, I can do the same thing. So I figured I can do the same thing with sports. You know, I've worked with all these other clubs, I see how they do it. I'm just gonna do it my way and try to make it affordable for parents and, you know, get people to say, well, that's cheap, I'm gonna sign my kid
I
up.
think our price point's pretty good, $40 for 8 weeks. There's not many people that are
No,
gonna.
$5 a week is the way I like to look at it.
Yeah. No,
That's
a good way to
a
look at it.
huge selling point. $5 a week, and it's a skills, and it's gonna teach them to help them advance. And if we allow our kids that just graduated out of 8th grade to still do it so that they're ready to go right in for the high school.
Yeah,
That's
that
huge.
sets them up.
You know, I had a guy that I reached out to before I left Maine. I worked with this guy, Zach Broca, down in Massachusetts. He had a Sidekick Soccer Academy. And I was asking him about prices, and he said what he did personally was he would charge $5 more than the competitor. And I said, well, why would you do that? And he goes, well, because a lot of times people look at it, and if you're charging cheaper than your competitor, and you're trying to undercut, they look at it like, well, you're trying to undercut so-and-so. But if you charge a little bit more, they're like, well, maybe we should go with this guy because maybe he offers something better. And I would charge $125 when everybody else was charging $120, and I had people signing up with me like crazy. But I would also offer a sibling discount as well. You know, I'd get those parents that are like, well, I got 3 kids. And I'd be like, all right, instead of paying me $375, you throw me $300, we'll call it good. And, you know, if you offer a little bit of a sibling discount, I think you'll get those multiple families as well.
We'll figure out price points. I think we have a good handle on that.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
well, I mean, we have until, because before we can post anything, you just have to get your insurance.
Yeah,
So count us in.
okay.
We're gonna figure it out by the sounds of it. Do we have a majority?
I think it's a really nice offer for the kids.
only concern I would have is the older kids playing. What age would the older group be?
Probably like 6th, 7th, 8th, like high school or middle school.
6th, 7th, and 8th? Or are you talking 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and going into 9th?
No, it would be 6th, 7th, 8th. They're gonna be all separated, so it would probably be like your.
You can't have 4th through 8th.
No. It would be your old kids, your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders would be the ones that would be together.
Yeah.
Depending on what the numbers were. If the numbers were too high, then it would be, 7th and 8th, and then 5th and 6th, or something like that. We'd be able to mitigate
The
it.
numbers are too low, like had in the past. That would be my only concern with offering it to the older kids, and especially kids going into high school. If we don't have those numbers and grouping them together, younger kids.
I don't think we'd be grouping them with younger kids, because as long as the numbers for the total amount of kids match up, we'll figure it out.
And also the clinic setting is different than.
Yeah.
Than like season, we're playing soccer, season, we're playing basketball.
Right.
The clinic setting isn't pairing a 6th grader against an 8th grader. In the
Yeah.
way that a competitive
yeah.
seasonal environment is anyway.
Exactly.
It's more fun, individual, not so much against each other, is that correct?
Yeah, it's more just working on your own skill building. It's not like a competitive game against each other.
So is it 1,200 for 3 hours?
For the 8 weeks.
Groups, like you break it up by the hours?
Y'all break it up by
8
the
weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a flat 1,200.
Yep, I let you guys handle the way you break it up the groups, I let y'all handle the whole payments and everything, I just show up with my equipment and do
So
my
we do it
thing.
like Robert's rules? You make a motion, I second, all in favor?
Sure.
Is that how we run?
They said we didn't even have to do any voting, so I'm like,
That's how
okay.
you run the meeting.
Yeah. Nope, they said we didn't even have to do any voting, so I'm like, okay.
Well, I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah, we're all, so, when does basketball start?
Usually around Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yeah, this year it was. a little
Last
bit
year,
later.
we did January, a couple weeks after Christmas, after Christmas break, like the middle, second week of January due to COVID.
So then maybe
And we
like,
worked other towns,
maybe like
to
October,
get
we
us
can look at doing
over
a
that
basketball.
hump of COVID in case people came back.
Do it anytime, really.
Years ago, in the old days, we always did after Christmas. The most recent years, we've done November, December, and I know we got a lot of feedback of people that really enjoyed it in January after the holidays, because November, December just seems to be
Crazy.
with the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and everything else just seems to be
So if you
really
put November,
congested
December,
together.
which is once a
And
week.
people really enjoyed the January
We'll
this
get them
year.
set up for January.
So,
Yeah, and it's not the same commitment as having the games and the practice of replacing once a week.
And that's kind of what I was,
Presumably a basketball camp in the fall.
The only concern would be is if you were playing against other towns, what the other towns are gonna be
Yeah,
doing.
we wanna
In the
align
past
ourselves with the other
basketball,
towns,
we
right?
Play Wakefield and we played Shapley, before.
From what I've been hearing, that's why your
Shapley
basketball
couldn't
was
play
on.
last year. Wakefield, we kept it, we did not reach out to Wakefield, I'm not even sure if they played, just because of
I think
COVID. We
right
didn't even
around
get approval
Thanksgiving.
till,
Yeah, I'll
the
look at-
last week of December to use the gym. Hopefully it's gonna change this year, and it won't be the that won't be the problem, but.
I'll look into getting other dates in that
Yeah,
for where everybody
TJ,
else starts.
You had thoughts, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but did you have thoughts on the basketball season? I mean, we can do the skill drills,
We could do the skill drills the same time.
to it.
And I'd say talk with Sam at Shapley too, about when their season starts.
The basketball season, correct?
Yes, we're talking about the basketball season, but I also want to wrap this up too,
Yeah.
because
There's a guy, I want to be respectful of his time, we already held him hostage in the beginning.
I know.
The lead up to basketball and the end of soccer, there's a gap there too, so could be the filler of the basketball camp, I think
Oh, yeah?
is what
Yeah.
you're alluding to.
Okay.
And then,
Exactly.
I also like I'm in love with the football, soccer, and basketball combined thing. Maybe we revisit that later this year, or maybe it'll be something for next year, but I love.
I think that would be awesome to offer this summer as well, because it would be in the middle, in the summer and that, we can,
For example, if I was to do something on my own and try to offer all three, what I would do, like if I was to offer to a school, I would say for the 3-week session, I would do it for $20, and 1 week I would do soccer, 1 week I would do basketball, the next week I would do football, just as a trial thing.
If we do your soccer thing, and then you're gonna have a lot of reputation and gain
Yeah.
that, and then we can go from there.
And
That'll be-
I don't know if y'all have kids or anything, but today at 4 is the last session for that all sports thing in Shapley, and we're starting it at 4. I guess they're having like a barbecue and stuff
Petting
like
zoo and all
that.
that.
The soccer session will be 5:30 to 6:30. If any of y'all want to come out and just like watch me interact with the kids and coach, or if you just want to come out for the event.
Where in Shepherd?
It's at the Shapley Rec Field. It's just past Boonies on the left.
Yeah,
You go down that big hill and then up, and it's right there on the left. It's a huge facility.
it is.
It's really nice.
so it'd be perfect for you guys. I won't be able to go.
Platters could be out there.
Oh, that's right. You guys have the birthday party.
We might come after and come check it out with our board.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna
just-
be in Shapley.
And then I'm doing a summer clinic for them. We're doing the last Wednesday of June, July, and August, and I'm only charging $20 for that. And that's basically to keep the parents and the kids engaged through the summer. And the potential, what we're trying to do is we're potentially trying to keep these kids from Shapley together to play in Sanford. I've mentioned this to Sam. I know she wants to stay here. This is just another thing for the future. If y'all want to guarantee that you play against other teams and other kids, just as Acton as a whole, pay that $200 sponsor fee to Sanford, but then they'd have to all sign up as individuals through Sanford Soccer, which is like 100, 110. But then you put on that, hey, I want to be with Coach Chad on the smaller ballers team. And then, like, if you were sponsoring, you can put your whole list. Like, it says it right on the little sponsor ticket. It says, please indicate if there's a particular child's team you wish to sponsor. And then they'll do the best to request it. So you can put that on your sponsor. Like, if you had a whole list of kids, if you had a full team, I don't think they would try to break those kids up. They would probably just keep them together and let you play. But that's another story.
But you would have the
Yeah.
the 110 per child, is that correct?
That's the Sanford,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not through me.
If
That's,
that's the case,
It's a lot of
to
ambitious.
play against Stanford, yeah. And one of my, I think I lost you again.
No, we're still here.
Okay. One of my concerns with that would be if we start doing other towns like playing that way, and then charging the 110, you're gonna get kind of what we have with baseball, and some kids join in that, and some kids join in the regular rec team.
Right.
And we would not have enough kids to be able to play the regular rec teams if we were gonna offer both.
Yeah. And I'd rather keep them here in town anyways than have them go and spend their money in Sanford and,
yeah, well, basically what you get, so like the $200 sponsor, the $200 sponsor pays for the jerseys and the socks, and then the 110 or 100 that you pay as a parent gets you 7 games at Sanford, and then they guarantee you 2 hours worth of practice time per week. But, I mean, of course, if you guys all had kids in Acton, you could stay here in Acton to practice, and then only go to Sanford for that one day, Saturday, to play games. But that's, down the road, if we can get good numbers and.
Yeah, that sounds like a conversation for next year.
Right, it's kind of too quick to get it done. I mean, the deadline for signups is, I think, the 12th. I was supposed to have my sponsor money in on the 1st, but I'm sponsoring 2 teams, and, I basically pull the money out of my own paycheck to sponsor, to kind of get my foot in the door with Sanford. I mean, I don't want to talk negatively about them, but I feel like it's kind of like a process to get in there. I feel like the people that are in charge like to be in charge, and when they see somebody else come in that's got experience, they kind of push you aside, like, hey, I'm running stuff, like, we want your help and your money, but we don't want you to try to tell us how to run stuff.
Sure.
That's kind of the vibe that I got when I was helping them out. And, you know, there's just one gentleman that I deal with, and they just kind of seem like they, you know, so-and-so doesn't like so-and-so, and so-and-so doesn't like the way so-and-so did this at the meeting. Yeah, it's like, okay, I mean, we're all trying to benefit the kids. Do we really care who's in charge and how it gets done? But, yeah, that's basically me sponsoring is my way of getting my foot in the door, and then that way I can show them, hey, this is how I coach, this is how the kids respond to me. If you like what you see, you can reach out to me like I'm doing with y'all. If not, so be it, I'm still gonna do my thing. So that's where I'm at with Sanford, and the only reason why I'm putting a team in Sanford is so I can say to the parents, like, we're guaranteed 7 games every Saturday at the Sanford soccer field, you know, for the months that they do it.
That's a good turnout. That's a good schedule, yeah.
Okay,
What is your last name?
Marku?
Chad Mark.
Yeah, you
I'll
look
send you-
familiar. You got sisters, right?
Did you graduate in 94?
97.
Yeah.
Same.
But all of your sisters, you all played soccer growing up, right?
Gagne.
Yeah, I remember. You guys had that house by number 1 pond, right? On the corner? Yeah, I remember now.
Small world.
all right, so we're gonna wrap up for today.
Okay.
We'll work on scheduling another meeting in that, because we went
Thanks for
definitely over
having me,
the
guys.
hour and a half I was.
Coming.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate it.
problem.
Really helpful.
Thank you.
The enthusiasm.
Yeah, and if you got any questions or anything, you got my numbers, you can friend me on Facebook, check out my
Yeah.
Facebook page, it's just www.facebook.com/JustKickUnited, it'll pop right up.
If you accept my friend request.
Accept your friend request.
Oh, I'm not on Facebook much anymore.
What's his name?
I will.
Chad Merkel, I'll send you his link in that, so you guys have it
If you
too.
could forward them the little video too.
Yes, yeah, I'm planning on, I was waiting for her to accept my friend request so that I could send a couple things. He was supposed to tell you the other day.
I forgot.
He's a slacker, blame him.
Just because we're not friends on Facebook doesn't mean we can't be real friends.
You haven't been busy or anything.
So just because we're not friends on
So,
Facebook
we're
doesn't mean
good?
we're not real friends.
All right,
Was it Kick United?
Just Kick United.
Just Kick. Ah.
Yeah.
so, all right. Thank you for joining, Lori. I think Carol's already gone. There goes my coffee.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here. Crystal's gone.
I'm still here.
Okay, perfect. So
Are we done for the day?
we are done for the day. So we're gonna work on organizing for the fundraiser for September 11th. We're going to work on scheduling to have the session. We'll also do a coaches thing.
Yep.
Just wait for him to get us his insurance information. That way we can hand that into the town hall and then we can go from there.
All right, keep in touch.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
All right. So then we'll reconvene at another day.
Yeah,
No worries, no worries.
yeah.
Thank you, Chad.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think just one quick comment. We didn't get into football. Do we get into trouble if we try to kind of run that ourselves the way we're doing everything else this
I
year?
don't know if we had a football program.
We don't have a football program, we don't have a football field. I don't think if we can offer like a hands-on just to kind of get them an idea of what it's like with him, with his clinic.
Perfect. Like,
Yeah.
can't do football, but we can kind of.
But I'm wondering,
Because it's no contact.
you guys could do
It's
that.
gonna be
And
the
just
littles
throwing the
again.
ball and running and,
Football with my kid 20 times a
And
week.
there's a
Right,
lot of
that's-
kids that do, a lot of boys that have been going to Wakefield, I believe, for the football program.
Yep.
So.
It would get them
if we
here.
don't offer football, they, may benefit from the clinic. The only problem is, I know it starts in the summertime, and it's a pretty extensive, it's 2-3 days a week plus games, I think, even for the little kids. So
I'm thinking just skill drills on a Saturday morning, just to bide the time.
They work well, but it would, as long as it wouldn't be when they're starting their football season.
Right.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be, yeah, we would figure that out, but I know we have a lot of littles that really want something to do. That I've had a lot of parents ask me, are you guys gonna be offering? And the one last thing that I want to touch on, and then I do want to wrap it up, because I promised my husband he could go to Berwick, because the car show, is, one of the things that I want to look at for next year, because it's obviously too close to the time frame this year, is adding into the budget so that we could financially, have our own summer camp program. That is a goal for next year. We've had several people ask us about it.
After-school program too.
Oh, I'd love to do an after-school program too. The only problem is during the winter months, we need to find a place to do it. So unless we can work with the school, and the school will allow us to do it, where they were supposed to have the Y, and the Y backed out last minute this year, and it kind of left a lot of parents stranded.
Yeah, it did.
And that is something that I can absolutely talk to the school about, but it would be something we would have to add to our budget for next year. So we wouldn't be able to offer it until next summer anyways.
It's a long-term goal.
Yeah.
One quick question is, did you ever ask about, the adding 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever they were talking about adding for the septic design into the budget before we vote?
I haven't been able to ask her. That's part of my questions for them on Monday, because I'm meeting with them. I did find out we cannot do a ceiling fan, but we can go to like Lowe's or Home Depot and we can buy one of those fans or whatnot to put in the snack shack. And because of the height, the ceiling height is too low. But for the electricity in there to get a light put in, he said it would probably be between $400 and $500 for commute and time frame and all of that. And if we wanted to add an extra outlet at the light pole, we would probably be looking at $1,400 to $1,500 for the light in the shack and that outlet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we necessarily need the outlet, or if we should just worry about right now doing the light in the shed and then looking at water into the shack.
Water
Water's huge for
far
them.
more important than
Budget for both.
We don't have, no, the budget for the electricity in that was only $1,200.
I don't think we need another outlet.
I don't think we need that.
We need the light. If it's raining, we're not gonna be there.
We have extension cords.
Right, if we're there after dark for a different
We can
event,
always tap into one of
you've got those big
one of the plugs
lights.
and run a light.
Yeah, I think, let's not
So
put
this
our
is just
money
the
there.
internal light in the shack.
We don't need it. We can do makeshift.
We can do an illegal one.
No, we could
just
get
grab-
like a paint
I'm not
hanging lamp,
No.
you know, on a screwy thing that hangs down.
One of the ones from the garage that just has the
Yeah, exactly.
extension cord and reel it down. We're good,
We can
okay.
figure that out.
All right.
Let's not
So
put our money.
we're gonna wrap it for today. And then we will plan on trying to set up another date for another time.
Sure. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Nice chatting.
Bye.
We definitely have a few things on the table.